I'll walk you guys through a file that one of our coaches brought to my attention. And basically, what you will see is that client started off at 330 pounds and current weight goal is 290. And right now, he is in fat loss. And I'll talk a little bit about that coming up here soon. But what I want people to focus on is kind of this gradual down. And notice that the compliance here is very good. And that's a little bit of what I'm going to speak on. Now, what you will see is that, last couple days show up as zeros. Some people input their data a few days at a time, and because they might be manually inputting or they just haven't loaded it up to that point. So even though it looks like he might be non-compliant here, he may actually be compliant, though he did kind of mention a little bit of deviating from the plan on this one day. And so what you will see is that, like I said, he started at 330, and right now, we've had him as low as 290.8, and current goal is 290.2. Now, what I'm really want to focus on here is I'm going to go back to some of these earlier days before he got to coaching and before Heather sort of took him on. And what you will see are these wild fluctuations. Now, that's very common for a bigger athlete, right? Or someone that is, kind of new to fitness. You'll see kind of the, like here he's 309. And then here he's 317, right? That's in the span of, just a couple days. So what we're really looking at is like big, huge water loads. So that might be, let's take a look actually. By the way, if you're not familiar with this is actually what it looks like in the web interval for the clients as well. And you can sort of follow along here. There's nothing really that stands out as to why this fluctuation happened. But, usually you will see like something related to sodium. There wasn't a lot of communication going on, a lot of coaches talking to him, but not necessarily him talking back to coaches. And so we... once Heather took him on individually, what you'll see is that things have kind of moved down. Now, one of the interesting things here, let's open this up, is that you'll see his calories were in the neighborhood of 3,100. That's actually very common. Part of what we do with Eat to Perform is we are going to push calories up occasionally and then pull them down on occasion. And the bigger occasion, of course, is going to be the time outside of dieting. That's kind of the basic principle of Eat to Perform. But in the case of a client similar to this one, you're going to want to see a little bit more time in fat loss cycle. So let me see if I can start to come up with, let's go back to June. So yeah, we're seeing a lot of time back here in April. And let's see, May kind of pulled it together. And then we see that one really big spike up in June, which is sort of hard to account for. But the difference now, and I'll show you here, well, I'll just show you right now. So Heather, you're seeing him respond and saying that it was okay to use this as a video. Heather's sending him a lot of messages, not necessarily communicating back and forth, but I think they actually might be communicating offline. So kind of keep that in mind. That happens on occasion, depending on the coach situation. So as an example, if Heather, if he was at her gym, which we have a number of coaches that have that situation where a client works out at their gym and so they kind of take them over. But what you can really see, and it really doesn't start from the 330. If it started from 330, you would see a much bigger trend downward. But you can also see when I showed you that his macros were at 409, now what you're looking at is we're getting a little bit more aggressive in fat loss. Calories are closer to like that 2300 range. Now, one of the things that we often say is that you want to keep sodium, especially for men, around 2500. And that's true. That is probably the general guideline. But in the case of 320, he's probably not going to see a massive spike up, right? And similar to what we had seen a little bit earlier. And so when a coach is sort of reviewing someone's file, what we're really looking at here is, are we seeing, like this is a great example. So right now he's 294 and then he spikes up to 298. That's a much more reasonable spike, and that's normal. Actually, within the plan, we're trying to make your weight fluctuate because that's the sign of what a healthy metabolism is. If your weight stays the same, that's actually one of the signs of metabolic disorder, is when weight is always the same. That's not good. So a lot of people want their weight to stay the same or constantly go down. And what you can see here is that he's 298 on the 15th, and then on the 20th he's 290.8. So that's a much bigger swing than the good majority of people are going to see, but it really does outline how when your weight is fluctuating, you are more likely to be able to go down than if you were kind of stuck with one number, banging your head against the rock. And what's also nice, if you look at what we're doing here, and I can think of one adjustment that I might be making in this instance that I'll talk to you guys about in just a second. But what you'll see here is that even though these numbers might be relatively low, there's going to be days where calories are a little bit higher, and there's really only one day where the calories are the lowest. And so that's 2 days a week. And most people find that they can stomach 2 days a week a little bit better than they can every single day. And like I said, when we're talking about your body reacting to the stimulus of undereating, it's better to fluctuate things a little bit so that you get kind of this overall trend down rather than kind of this one line over. So now that his calories are to this level, which on the low day is going to be probably in the neighborhood of about 2,000, I'm going to probably talk to Heather, and we're probably going to add a little bit more calories to the super day here. And the reason why is because we don't want one of these days where the Chick-fil-A is not factored in, right? There's benefits to having, I wouldn't say a full day of eating flexibly, but having one day, it's kind of the basic idea of cheat meals. I just hate that terminology because, if you think about why you're cheating on your diet. And the whole point of Eat to Perform is that you shouldn't be dieting all the time, that the best way to get a result is to eat normal, similar to what we talked about once his calories are over 3,000, and then occasionally pull things down, because what you'll start to see, and we're already seeing it here, is that he's about 2 weeks into this fat loss cycle, and he's already feeling it, right? And so he's got about 2 weeks left, and so those days where he can eat a little bit more flexibly. So I would say I'd probably put this super day, we don't call it cheat days, we call it super days, because I just think that's a better term. Before his super day, I would probably put it at about 319 carbs and about 94 for fats. So, and what you'll often see, and maybe I can show that in a file later on, is that if the body is responding well, similar to the way that his body is responding to this, you're not going to see a huge spike up. Your body's actually going to more efficiently deal with those calories. But obviously, when you're trying to lose weight, lose fat, you're going to have to be uncomfortable. And so, we can talk a little bit more about that, but, I do tons of podcasts on that stuff, how to manage hunger. Been doing some great series. We have a series on the site called the Better Dieting Series. So look that up if you're looking for ways to kind of manage your deficit cycles. But I think that this video, and I'm going to cut this off right now, but it really kind of shows the benefit of a coach kind of stepping in and, seeing, once the coach and he are communicating, I'm kind of seeing what's going on. So the green is him talking to his coach, and then Heather is now talking to him just through Plan Updated. She can also talk to him through messages as well, but you can sort of see that there's occasionally another coach will come in, but it's mostly Heather that's communicating with him from this point. But I think the other thing too that before I shut it down is that when we look at where he's at, he started in October to October, and he started at 330, and now he's at 290. We had kind of like a great run here, and then he sort of floundered, and then with the coaching, things started to really turn around. Is 40 pounds enough? I mean, I think it is actually, because what happens for a lot of people when you're 330 pounds is they want to lose 150 pounds within a year. And what my experience has been, and what we've seen with clients, is that they're better off managing it, let's say 50 pounds a year, because they'll hold on to more muscle. It's not as, like you can see on this file, it's going to suck a little bit. But if you have periods where you can manage that suck, and then actually, a great example, and I'll upload one of these files as well, is that the case study that I did on Samantha, you'll see that her graph is much more acute time. And so go back and look at that case study as well, because I think you'll find that to be real interesting and really close to what I'm talking about. But, in his instance, we're going to be pulling him, like he's in the second round of fat loss right now as it relates to Eat to Perform. We're going to have him move back to that 3,000, 3,500 calorie level for probably 2 to 3 months, and then hit fat loss again. And then just gradually kind of address that bigger goal, which, I've kind of referred to as sort of a wish goal. I like the idea of just having small goals that are right in front of you that you can attack at that moment. And as you can see, he's doing a real great job with that. All right, so hopefully this didn't go too long, but I appreciate everybody listening, and I'll talk to you later.